I think we both started with this vision, we have a heart for the church and we're going to help them design and build space. And as we got pulled into that process, well, you build space for the future, so what's your future? Became a question. Or when churches started prioritizing space because they had a limited budget, there became these big debates and arguments and tension about, well, what space is important and what's not. Well, that depends on where you're trying to go, right? So that question started coming to the surface. Well, when you start talking about, okay, well, what kind of ministry are we think we'll be doing 5 years? Well, then from now, then that drives you into, well, what's culture doing? What's happening around us? What's going to change in the way people think?
I mean, we're in a situation where, according to Rayner research, only 17% of churches are growing, and less than a quarter of those through conversion. Yet you look at the research on the other side, and you have 86% of the unchurched that believe they can have a good relationship with God without going to church. So the bad news is, they're not connecting with the church. The good news is, 86% of unchurched people are talking about having a relationship with God. They're not saying God is irrelevant, I don't need God. And 78% of them would be willing to have someone share their spiritual beliefs. And so, how do we help churches become more effective at connecting culture with Christ and the salvation message and the whole restoration and everything that God wants to do.
So then you start wrestling with the culture dynamic and how that's going to change your ministry, because a building just supports all of that. And then we started seeing breakdown in the leadership ability of a church to navigate through those conversations, because there's emotional, right? You have to let things die to move forward. And so understanding which things to protect and which things to let die, which Kevin addressed today, is part of that dialogue, but that's an emotional dialogue that takes a tremendous amount of skill to navigate somebody through. And so the whole leadership part of this became absolutely vital and critical. And it's like none of those are more important than the other. And how do you know what kind of facility to build? And you're going to invest 40% of your budget in this building, and if it's not aligned right, it becomes a headwind, not a tailwind to your ministry. And the weight and the responsibility of that is huge.
Mm-hmm. And that's also what's given us the window of opportunity too, is that a lot of what we share here are what every church should hear. It seems like, again, part of how we were drawn into this is that you've got churches that know they've got to get this right. It's a huge capital expenditure. It's going to make a big impact on the church, and they want to get that right. And that's what brings them to the conference initially, but it's so much more than that. One of the best, we always, and we're always trying to make these better conferences, and so you have the comments and everything. One of the best comments that we ever got was, "This isn't at all what I expected, but it was exactly what I needed," which was a great way to say that, there's certainly some nuts and bolts aspects of what we're doing, but there's so much more to pulling this all together.